Aisha stood in front of the entire village, her arms crossed, her face unmoved. In front of her knelt Adeyemi. He was successful by village standards, he owned land, he had built a good house, he had a respected name. He was offering everything a woman in her position could want. And she was rejecting him. Publicly. In front of everyone. "You're not for me," Aisha said. Her voice was clear, unapologetic, cutting. "I don't want to be a village wife. I don't want to stay here. I don't want to spend my life grinding corn and bearing children. I want more." The crowd gasped. In their village, in their culture, in their time, a woman didn't speak to a man this way. A woman didn't demand more. A woman didn't reject a good man publicly and walk away like she was worth something better. But Aisha walked away. She walked through the crowd, her head high, her heart certain. She was beautiful. She was intelligent. She believed the world outside her village had something for her that this place never could. Adeyemi was the fourth man she'd rejected that year. Before him, there was Segun the trader. Before that, Kofi the doctor. Before that, Tunde the engineer. Each one accomplished. Each one rejected with the same clarity, "You're not enough for what I want." The village women whispered. They said she was proud. They said she was cursed. They said she would die alone. They said no woman was so special that she could reject good men and still find happiness. Aisha didn't care what they said. She had a dream. She was going to leave this village. She was going to become someone important. She was going to build a life that didn't depend on any man. But nobody understood the price that pride would cost her. Nobody knew that rejecting love because you believed you deserved better is one of the cruelest lessons life can teach. Aisha was different from the other girls from the beginning. While they played with dolls, she read books. While they practiced cooking and housekeeping, she practiced mathematics and writing. While they accepted their destiny, marriage, children, the village, she dreamed of escaping it. Her father was a teacher. The first person in the village with a university degree. He encouraged her. "You're smarter than most of the boys," he would tell her. "Don't waste that." But her mother was terrified. "Beauty is a gift," her mother would say, "and you're wasting it. Men like your sisters are already married. Men like your cousins are already chosen. And you're here with your books, with your ideas about living. Aisha, the village will eat you alive if you're not careful." By the time Aisha was 15, every boy in the village wanted her. Not just because she was beautiful, though she was. But because she was different. She had a light in her eyes that spoke of places beyond the village. She had a confidence that made men feel like if they could have her, they would be significant. The first man to propose was Jamal. He was handsome, kind, and he loved her genuinely. He asked her father for her hand. Her father asked her what she wanted. And Aisha said, "I want to go to the city. I want to get an education. I want to become a teacher like you, Daddy. Maybe better." Her father looked at her for a long time. And then he said something she would never forget, "Dreams are beautiful, Aisha. But they are also dangerous if they make you reject everything good because you're waiting for something perfect." But Aisha was 17. She was certain. She told Jamal no. And she told her father, "I'll go to the city. I'll make something of myself. And then maybe I'll come back with someone worthy of me." And miraculously, she did go to the city. Her father found a way to pay for her secondary school. She excelled. She got a scholarship to university. She became the first woman from her village to earn a degree. She got a job in Lagos as a teacher. She achieved what she dreamed. But when she came back to the village at 26, something unexpected happened. The men who had wanted her when she was 17 were now married. They had moved on. They had built lives with women who had said yes. And the men who wanted her now, men from the city who came to the village, men from neighboring villages, successful men, she found herself rejecting them too. Because her dream had changed. She didn't want just any successful man anymore. She wanted a man as exceptional as she believed she was. She wanted someone who matched her intelligence, her ambition, her vision. And she was waiting for him. She didn't realize she was waiting for a fantasy. She didn't realize that in setting her standards so high, she was making it impossible for anyone to reach her. There was Kofi. A doctor. Intelligent, successful, kind. He wanted to marry her, build a family, give her a good life. Aisha found him boring. You don't challenge me, she said. You're content. You've stopped dreaming. I need someone who's still reaching. There was Segun. A successful businessman. Rich beyond what Aisha had ever imagined. But he was crude. He was self-made and he showed it in ways that made Aisha feel superior. I can't respect a man like you, she told him. Money isn't everything. There was Tunde. An engineer. Brilliant, artistic, sensitive. He wrote her poetry. He understood her intellectually. But he was poor. His dreams were bigger than his bank account. And Aisha couldn't imagine marrying a man who hadn't already achieved. I don't want to struggle, she told him. I've done enough struggling. And then there was Adeyemi. And she rejected him too. By 30, Aisha was alone. Not sad about it, or so she told herself. She was focused on her career. She had gotten a position as a principal at a school. She was respected. She was financially secure. She was independent. She was everything she had dreamed of becoming. But she was also increasingly isolated. Her colleagues at work didn't understand her expectations of men. Her friends from university had married and moved on. Her family in the village had stopped asking. Everyone had accepted. Aisha was too proud to be loved. She told herself this was fine. She told herself she didn't need a man. She told herself her achievements were enough. She told herself that if someone truly exceptional came along, she would know. She would be ready. But the truth was, she was waiting for a man who didn't exist. She was waiting for someone perfect. And perfect people don't exist. She had rejected love so many times that she had stopped recognizing it when it came. She had set her standards so high that kindness looked like weakness. Contentment looked like lack of ambition. Safety looked like settling. And at 32, when she looked around her life, she realized something devastating. She had everything she ever dreamed of. Except the one thing she had never allowed herself to have, someone to share it with. The headaches started small. Just tension from work. But they got worse. Worse enough that one day at school, Aisha collapsed. They took her to the hospital. The doctors ran tests. The diagnosis came back, a tumor. Not cancer, benign, but it needed to be removed. Surgery. Recovery. A long road. Aisha, who had never needed anyone, suddenly needed everyone. She needed her mother to help her after the surgery. She needed her father to drive her to appointments. She needed her friends to visit her while she recovered. She needed someone to hold her hand in the hospital and tell her she would be okay. But she was alone. Because in pushing away every man who'd ever offered partnership, she had also been pushing away the kind of partnership that would have meant someone was obligated to be there. Someone was promised to her. Someone had to stay. Her friends came. Her family came. But they had their own lives. They had husbands and children waiting for them. They had obligations. Aisha had no one who had to prioritize her. She had no one who had promised her forever. During her recovery, she thought about all the men she'd rejected. Jamal, she heard he had married and was happy. He had children now. Kofi was practicing medicine in Accra. Tunde had become an architect, his projects were featured in magazines. Segun had become even wealthier. Adeyemi had married and was respected in his community. They had all moved on. They had all built lives with women who had said yes. And she had, what? She had her career. She had her independence. She had her pride. And she was sitting in a hospital room alone, recovering from surgery, with no one who loved her the way a spouse loves. I was waiting for someone perfect, she said to her mother one day, while recovering. I was waiting for a man who was my equal in every way. And I rejected everyone because they weren't him. Her mother, who was old now and tired from caring, sat on the edge of the bed and took her daughter's hand. Aisha, she said quietly, perfection isn't the goal in love. Partnership is. And you rejected partnership because you were too busy being proud of yourself. That was the moment Aisha truly understood. She had spent 15 years building a life she dreamed of. And she had spent 0 of those years building the relationship she had rejected. And now, when she needed someone most, there was no one. Because love doesn't wait for you to decide you're ready. Love moves on when you keep saying no. During her recovery, Aisha made a decision. She had spent half her life saying no to love because she believed something better was coming. She had spent the other half building a life that turned out to be hollow without someone to share it with. She called her father. Daddy, she said, I need to tell you something. I think you were right. I think I let my dreams become more important than my life. I chose ambition over love. And I lost. Her father, who was also aging, cried. Not because she was sad, but because she had finally understood. Aisha, he said, you could have had both. You could have had your career and a partner. But you created a choice that didn't have to exist. You made yourself alone. And then something unexpected happened. Ton came to visit her while she was recovering. Not because she called him. But because he had heard about her illness and he came anyway. This was the man she had rejected 10 years ago because he was struggling. This was the man whose poetry she had found insufficient. This was the man she had said wasn't accomplished enough. He sat by her bed. He held her hand. He didn't say, I told you so. He didn't remind her of the rejection. He just sat with her, quietly, like he had always wanted to do. Why did you come? She asked him. Because I never stopped, he said simply. I never stopped caring about you. Not when you rejected me. Not when you built your life without me. Not when you got successful and I thought maybe you'd finally see that you could have had both, the dream and the love. I came because I need you to know that you mattered. You still matter. Not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you are. And Aisha cried. Not because he was still available. Not because she could have another chance. But because she finally understood, she had spent her whole life looking for someone to match her achievements, and she had missed all the people who matched her heart. I was so proud, she said to him. I was so sure that my dreams were all I needed. And they are beautiful dreams. But I was wrong about one thing. I thought achieving them alone would make them matter more. I thought if I built them myself, they would mean something. But they don't. They just exist. And I exist with them. Alone. The remarkable thing was, Ton didn't ask her to marry him. He didn't ask for forgiveness or a second chance. He just started showing up. He came to her appointments. He brought her soup. He sat with her while she recovered. He treated her like someone who was worth showing up for, not because she was exceptional, but because she was human. And he loved her. And Aisha, for the first time in her life, let someone love her. Not because he was perfect. Not because he matched her achievements. But because he was kind, and he was present, and he had never stopped caring. Months later, after she had fully recovered, they were sitting in the park, the same park where her father had once told her about the danger of dreams. And Ton said something that changed everything. I became an architect, you know, he said. I did accomplish things. Not while I was waiting for you, I don't think I could have if I was. But I built a life anyway. And I'm proud of it. But I'm more proud that I never stopped being the kind of person who could love you. Even after you rejected me. Why? Aisha asked. Why didn't you just move on like the others? Because, he said, loving someone isn't transactional. It's not about them deserving it. It's a choice. I chose to love you even when you didn't choose me. And when you were sick, I chose to show up. Because that's what love is. A year after her surgery, they got married. Not in a grand celebration, they kept it simple, intimate. Her father was there. Ton's family was there. And it was beautiful. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. Because two imperfect people chose to build something together. And Aisha kept her career. She didn't have to choose between her dreams and her marriage. She had them both. But she had learned something crucial: having them both required humility. It required accepting that love doesn't look like achievement. It looks like partnership. She had spent 15 years building a life she was proud of. And it took a health crisis for her to understand that the greatest achievement isn't what you accomplish alone. It's what you build together with someone who loves you. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in Aisha, if you've been waiting for someone perfect, if you've been rejecting good people because they didn't meet your standards, if you've been alone because you believed you deserved better, I want you to hear something important. There is nothing wrong with having standards. There is nothing wrong with wanting more. There is nothing wrong with pursuing your dreams. But there is something very wrong with letting those dreams become a reason to reject love. Perfect doesn't exist. The person who will love you won't be perfect. They will be flawed and struggling and still trying. And if they stay, if they choose you, if they show up, that's worth more than a perfect person who doesn't actually exist. Aisha spent 15 years waiting. 15 years saying no. And she didn't gain anything except solitude. She could have been building her career and her love life. She could have had a partner while becoming the woman she dreamed of. But instead, she created a false choice: either love or success. And she chose success. The tragedy of Aisha's story isn't that she didn't achieve her dreams. She did. The tragedy is that she achieved them alone, and it took almost losing her life to understand that achievement without someone to share it with is just emptiness. So I want to ask you, what are you waiting for? What kind of perfection are you holding out for? And more importantly, what are you losing while you wait? Because here's the truth that Aisha had to learn the hard way: the person who loves you while you're becoming yourself is worth more than the perfect person you're imagining in your head. The person who shows up when you're sick, who supports your dreams, who chooses you over and over, they're not settling. They're the goal. And if you keep rejecting them because they're not perfect enough, you might wake up one day and realize they've moved on. And there's no second chance. There's just regret. Aisha was lucky. She got a second chance. Most people don't. So if someone good is standing in front of you right now, if someone is offering you partnership, offering you love, offering you a life together, stop waiting for perfect. Start building real. Because the most beautiful life isn't the one you build alone. It's the one you build with someone who loves you anyway.